Hi guys, it's John. If you're watching this video, you're probably not having loads of leads flood your inbox, and your content might not have produced any inquiries in the past week, month, quarter, or even year. And I want to fix that. In today's video, I want to run through the biggest things that I've observed over the last 4 years and the biggest reasons why you're not producing inquiries and what specifically you need to do in your content strategy to change that. And I've really tried to put everything together because everyone's got loads of different strategies, everyone's got loads of different angles and methods to approach getting clients into your business. But ultimately, posting really good content and getting that inquiry form filled out is the best strategy because you can do it en masse. But there's probably nuance and things that you're not doing, which we can look into. And I've done it in an order where it's obviously the most important thing is number one, then number two, and number three. And the reason I've done that is because no matter how good, and if we build a proper system here, which we'll get onto, a proper funnel system, if you're not addressing the right problems, it doesn't matter. Because selling, take it from me, selling something that people don't want, I did this for 2 years in biotech, you're never going to get anywhere. But if you're on the right pressure points and if you're talking about the right things, even if it's not like particularly organized, you're going to strike more gold. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing to consider is who are you talking to? Are you talking about problems rather than topics? Because most people just cover topics. Are you addressing specific issues that you know your current clients face? So this is awareness, and this is where you really need to understand what people are thinking about, because if your content can enter an internal dialogue they've been having in their mind for the past 2 weeks, three months, whatever, that's when you're going to get that resonance. We're going to cover that in the messaging, but it doesn't matter. Even if you're talking about things that they know about, if they don't care about it, you're not going to drive much urgency, and you're not going to make people reconsider and then want to take action. So where is the pain in the market? For example, if you're just helping people lose fat and build muscle, yeah, I want to be bigger but leaner, like everyone says. That's not, obviously they can just keep going and they keep trying on their own. But if you focus on the fact that, well, most people, once they go past the first 2 years of linear progression, they don't make progress. They're terrified of losing muscle because they can't build it. So on a cut, they don't push hard. And then once they're cutting, obviously they don't get in a good position where they're insulin sensitive, and they can't then push up from there. So they spend their entire life yo-yoing, looking suboptimal, and looking like people who don't train. And they probably put a lot of their identity into the fact they go to the gym and they train, but no one can tell. All the effort they're putting in is irrelevant, because you get younger people who have newbie gains, but also probably following a little bit more advice, and they're working not as hard, they're making less sacrifices, and they've been less consistent than them, and they haven't been training as long as them, but they look so much better, and people can recognize and respect them, where if they're not doing anything to kind of get out linear progression, then no one can tell. They go unappreciated. So understanding where the actual pain is in the market and then centering content and stories around that is important. Otherwise, your content is surface level and it's never going to penetrate. That was intentional, that word. It's never going to hit them. So that's a big thing. So are you talking about problems? Are you talking about problems people care about? And are you addressing the kind of areas where people generally want to move away from and then lead them to somewhere that they want to be? And where do you position yourself? So positioning is basically, okay, once you're aware of the key areas where people want to change and the key pain points in the market, how do you resonate with that? Where do you come as a business, as a coach? How do you fit into that? And if you think about this, I look to imagine the industry as like a solar system. Each orbit range is different education levels. On the outside, you got like someone like Jamie Oliver creating cookbook. People think if they're kind of not educated and they don't have a clue, that's going to be the thing that is going to help them to lose weight. Then you get Joe Wicks. Then you get people a little bit more advanced. In the center, you've got obviously bodybuilders with cutting edge PED protocols. So where are you? Which orbit range are you in? Where is your information? Who is it applicable for? And what are the pain points on the outside? So you are the obvious choice for people when they're kind of going along in their journey. Where do you meet them? So being aware of that, and it's the core fundamentals really. And this is something I can go with in full detail. If you don't have a clue about any of that, in the description below, you get the option to book in a call. I obviously work one-on-one with every single client on this. But even if you don't want to continue working, I'll help you out on that call regardless, so you get a better picture of what specifically you need to talk about. Given if you tell me what your market is or what you're trying to do, we can work that together, because there's a lot of There's a lot of detail and nuance there. But once you've got that, that's the biggest thing, because even if you screw some of this up, but you're still talking about relevant things that people want to solve, you're going to hit a little bit more. You're going to drive a few more inquiries. Next thing is, following on from position, is your bio. So this is, again, how do you present yourself? Now, something called the promise statement. This is typically, you probably experienced, like, I help busy working professionals get lean and six-pack shredded in 90 days or less, guaranteed. And it's just like, that's vomit-inducing. But what is the minimum expectation and minimum result you want to achieve for every single person that comes through your doors? And then is there an angle of attack or an angle of approach that you do with that? That's basically, what are you here for? Is it obvious? Because a 5-year-old understand it. If I land on your profile after watching one of your reels, will I get it? Will I get you? Is it clear? Clarity. And then validation, like how many people have you helped? How long have you been doing this? Reinforce this statement with experience. And then a very, very clear call to action to take next step. And then your form. Some people push landing pages. Forms are outperforming landing pages right now. They're just vastly getting more people fill them out and the submission rate's higher because it's clean, it's simple, it's quick. If your questions, if your submission rate is under 30%, you need to look at the questions on the form and reduce those and look at the order. For example, putting contact information at the end of the form increases submission rate because people have that. They fill out the form, they get to the end, and they're committed at that point. So little details like that, but making it very easy for people to inquire is obviously important. Some people don't put forms in their bio. They just put a DM, and you can't rely on that because some people won't want to DM you. They want to fill out a form anonymously and then just see. So have options really, but just make yourself easily contactable. And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just expect people to crawl hand over fist and throw cash in your face. I mean, that would be lovely, wouldn't it? But hey ho. So forms are pretty good. And then pin posts. Again, 98% of people will not go below the first 3 posts you have. So doing this is really important, probably a little bit more important than when we move on to the content strategy, because it's weighted. People land on here and they make judgments. When they see something, they're going to come and look at you. And we want to make sure you're showing yourself off in the best light. Are you showing the best results? Are you talking about yourself? There's a little bit about you. And also, how does your service work? Because if you think about it like this, 38, 37 touch points it takes to build enough trust now. That's a lot of reels. Whereas if you can create a really good first impression when they see it, basically they stick after looking and being, basically the promise statement, the validation that confirms why they're here. And they scroll down and they look at the amazing results that you can do. They look at people who look just like them, so their hope that they can get a result goes up. And then they see elements of the process where they get so much more of an understanding of what you do, how you work, and how results are generated. That's how many touch points is that going to take then? How much does that inform them? And then they can go, wow, okay, I know what I can expect. I know a little bit about them. I like them. I know exactly how they work and what I get. It's not just a PDF plan. Interesting. Okay. That person might inquire straight away. Other people might not, but they're so much more informed, and it reduces that time it takes for someone to build up trust to reach out because you're organized with what you put there. So bio is really important. Then we look at the messaging. This is probably a huge reason why you're not getting inquiries, because most people just talk about how-tos. And YouTube's slightly different. It's longer form. But on Instagram, I spent 4 years trying to help people genuinely, but no one really cares, because if you're not resonating with them first, you don't get past that first stage of who is this? I don't know, and you don't really captivate attention and open the loop for people to want to move forwards. You just give them something and they kind of go, oh, okay, piecemeal, walk off. Whereas if you talk about, well, if you know them and you reference their reality, if you can describe their reality more than they can by labeling the thoughts, the emotions and the behaviors they're taking, that will make someone trust you so much more, and it will really grab their attention and make you the only person that can help them. And they literally lock in and zero in on you. And guess what that does to improve your inquiry rate? Makes you the sole choice. So being specific to who you help, but referencing this sort of stuff rather than just informative, useful information is going to generate more interest, and it's going to generate more intrigue for people to then inquire, rather than get what they want to walk off. So messaging, really, really important, has to be specific and has to kind of align with what you have here. And again, there's a lot of nuance to this. If you are stuck with this, booking a call, we'll go through it for yourself, because it's taken me a while to understand everything. But stories sell, and stories speak to the subconscious mind, and all of these emotions you can deliver through stories as well. It's the main thing that's driving inquiries right now, rather than the logical brain. So really, really important part of this. And then we can look into the frequency. So if you've got all that dialed in, how often are you doing it? Are you doing it in a bit of a structured way? So most people, when they look at content strategy, there's probably loads of different things, from informative to tips to trending reels and all that sort of stuff. And ultimately, I see three pillars. Everyone's got their own approach, but there's three main angles, technically four, but three main angles to focus on. Are you talking about problems that people want to solve? And are you doing it in this way? Are you then providing the next step? Because again, a lot of people just talk about the problems, but you know, you're basically tickling their balls, and they're going, well, okay, yep, that's me, now what? And then it's like, yep, that's me, now what? Give them the next stage, which is basically your framework, or what does your service look like? How do you fix that? A little bit more details into how you work. You can do that through client stories, you can do that through your own story, but a lot of people miss that out, and it's just an obvious thing of like, well, some of your content should be based around targeting on this. Other content should be targeted on like, how do you solve it? What do you do? How does your service implement that so people become informed? And then proof it works. Pretty simple. And then you could just rotate between those. And then another thing we can focus on is call to actions. How many times do you ask your audience to inquire? Most people don't, because they're afraid that they'll put something out there and they'll get ghosted. The thing is, no one can tell. No one can tell how many inquiries you get or DMs you get. And if you don't ask, you normally don't get. So you want to do this once or twice a week. There's different ways you can do that, but so not twice a week, I mean twice a month. There's different ways you can do that. You can do it a little bit more. There's certain frequencies around paydays and things like that, but asking people to inquire is a very easy way to nudge that up when you get it right. And again, if you're not trying, you're not going to get the reps to build the experience to learn. So you've got to start somewhere. And then we can look at the psychology of the week. So it's then, once you've got this structure, how do you map it into how people think throughout the week? And very quickly with that, you've got, obviously, Sunday's a really good day because people have probably got their fun out the way. They're waiting for Monday to hit them. They're in this space where they're probably anticipating the week ahead. They are cross-comparing themselves, analysing. They're in a very thoughtful state, I say, Sunday evening. So if you put up a client result or you just do a bit of a call to action there, you might catch people in that mood. And then Monday's not a bad day again. Got it down to about, the week's not bad, but momentum's high. Tuesday's not as good. Wednesday's not as good as Tuesday. Thursday's not as good as Wednesday. Friday's awful. Saturday's terrible, because people want to put their feet up. They don't want to feel guilty about not working out. They don't want to feel guilty about not making a change in a positive action. They just want to relax. Leave me alone. So being aware of the psychology, because I said, you could be like nailing this, but if you're trying to do big call to actions on days of the week where people don't really committal, the chances are I might interfere. Not massive, but why not align with what's actually flowing and kind of go with the groove, which would benefit you. So psychology. And then we can look into, okay, do you have a proper funnel in mind? Are you posting and hoping? Are you just randomly putting stuff out there, crossing your fingers and just trusting that people will inquire? Or do you have an actually systemized approach which pushes people through the process? So when we look at that, very simple, oh, you can't see, very simple funnel, I would say. It's basically short reels, which is probably the first time people will see and encounter you. Do they bring people into the profile? Can they look at your bio? Do you have longer form content where people have a little bit more time spent with you and hearing your information, might see some of your results? Will they then start to check you out on stories? Again, stories are a little bit more personal. It's a little bit more raw. Get to know the day-to-day, see what's actually happening. And then can you generate conversations off the stories? Polls, quizzes, Q&As, rating scales, very, very easy mechanisms you can do to create authentic conversations and just connect with strangers. And that's it. It's like, this is basically stranger who has never seen you before into, that's the person I'm actually helping in a DM, and generally just trying to improve their experience, improve their day, and offer one-to-one help and see if they need help further. So that's that sort of conveyor belt. And if you have a proper systemized approach, you can look into something like this. So short reels, or maybe even ads, specifically labeling problems, not so much solutions. That's going to pull people into your audience. Once they're in the audience, can you talk about the solutions? Can you do a bit more story content to build the connection with you? Can you offer those results? Can you show the results? Again, warm them up. And then some people, around 3 to 5% typically, might just come straight through on the form. Very, very basic inquiry process of, get up the form, show them the framework of service, give them an expectation of their results going through the process and booking a call. And then from there, some people won't. So can you nurture them, give a resource? Can you do a follow-up process? What can you do to improve them and convert them slowly into this 3 to 5%, transfer people across, and people falling through that net, well, can you remarket? You can either do that just posting content as you do, or we can potentially look at remarketing ads. Anyone who's viewed the profile, who hasn't done any of these two options, can we target them with testimonials, with result compilations, all that sort of stuff, where they just get shown proof over and over and over and over and over again. So that is breaking down areas of importance from starting from the left all the way to the right. There's one of these 5 reasons is why you're not getting inquiries. And you've just got to home in and understand from what I've told you today, what do you think is the issue? And again, if you need help with pinpointing it and you need someone to actually guide you through this, there'll be contact information below. But just remember the fact that if you're not talking about issues people generally will solve, you're not helping yourself out and you're not driving true urgency. If you're not representing yourself in the best light, you're not making it easy for people to contact you, that's not going to help your situation. And if you're not resonating and tapping into more of understanding them rather than helping them up front, you're not getting past that hurdle of building intrigue and grabbing attention so people actually start to pay attention to you and alert them into your presence. And if you're not doing it in a systemized way and a structured way, then you're kind of just leaving it up to chance. Anyway, I know a lot of people struggle with this. I want to do something in depth. If this has been helpful, let me know. If you're struck with anything, just drop a comment below. I'll respond to you. But I really hope that helps you. I'll see you in the next one. I'll see you in the next one.